Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. We've got some pretty wild and breaking news coming out of the world of horse racing, specifically from Aqueduct Racetrack in New York. If you were planning on watching the races there on November 30th, you were in for a major surprise. The New York Racing Association, or NYRA, had to make the unprecedented decision to cancel almost the entire race card for the day. That's right, 8 out of the 9 scheduled races were called off. And it wasn't because of bad weather or a faulty track. It was because the jockeys refused to ride. So, what exactly happened here? Well, it all started right after the very first race of the day. A group of jockeys came forward and expressed some serious concerns. Their issue wasn't with the track conditions, which they confirmed were fine, but with the officials in charge of weighing them before and after races, specifically the clerk of scales and the assistant clerk of scales. Now, for those of you who might not be familiar with the nitty-gritty of racing rules, the clerk of scales has an incredibly important job. They are responsible for weighing the jockeys with all their gear to make sure they meet the assigned weight for each horse in a race. This process is absolutely crucial for maintaining the integrity and fairness of the sport. Even a slight discrepancy in weight can affect a horse's performance and the outcome of a race. The jockeys lodged a protest, essentially saying they had issues with how these duties were being carried out. NYRA management immediately stepped in to try and resolve the situation. They talked with the jockeys, they listened to their concerns, and they tried to find a middle ground. Andrew Offerman, who is the Senior Vice President of Racing and Operations for NYRA, released a statement clarifying their position. He emphasized that NYRA is responsible for all the racing officials, including the clerk of scales, and that the procedures they use are all designed to protect the integrity of racing. He made it clear that it's NYRA's job to enforce these rules, which are set by the New York State Gaming Commission. Despite these discussions and assurances from management, the jockeys were not satisfied. They stood firm in their decision and collectively refused to get on their mounts for the remaining races. This wasn't just a threat, they followed through. As a result, NYRA had no choice but to cancel the rest of the day's live racing. This protest didn't just affect that one day either. The jockeys also abandoned their plans to ride on the following Sunday, December 1st, which meant more cancellations and a significant disruption to the racing schedule. It's a pretty bold move from the jockeys, and it really highlights how serious their concerns must be. When you have an entire group of professional athletes willing to walk away from their paychecks and the sport they love, you know something significant is going on behind the scenes. This kind of collective action by jockeys is not something you see every day. It sends a powerful message to the racing authorities and the public. The jockeys are the ones out there on the track, risking their safety every single time they ride. They have a unique perspective on the sport, and when they speak up together like this, it forces everyone to pay attention. Their protest wasn't about money or track safety, but about the fundamental procedures that ensure a level playing field for everyone involved: the owners, the trainers, the bettors, and of course, the jockeys themselves. They felt that the integrity of the weigh-in process was compromised, and they were not willing to participate until their concerns were properly addressed. For the fans at the track and those betting from home, it was obviously a huge disappointment. Aqueduct Racetrack did remain open for simulcasting, so people could still watch and wager on races from other tracks around the country. And of course, online wagering was still available through platforms like NYRA bets. But there's nothing quite like the excitement of live racing. And that was gone for the weekend. The sound of the hooves thundering down the stretch, the roar of the crowd, all of it was silenced by this dispute. It left a lot of people wondering what was going to happen next. Would the jockeys and NYRA be able to come to an agreement? How long would this protest last? The good news is that this stalemate didn't last forever. NYRA announced that live racing was scheduled to resume on the following Thursday, December 4th. They had a full Atris card planned, with the first post time at 12:40 p.m. Eastern. This suggests that some sort of resolution, or at least a temporary agreement, was reached between the jockeys and the management. While the exact details of what was discussed or agreed upon haven't been made fully public, the fact that racing was set to resume was a positive sign for everyone who loves the sport. It indicates that the lines of communication were opened and that both sides were willing to work towards a solution. This incident really serves as a reminder of the complex relationships and regulations that govern professional horse racing. It's not just about fast horses and skilled jockeys. There's a whole infrastructure of rules, officials, and procedures that has to function perfectly to ensure fairness and safety. When one part of that system breaks down, or when there's a loss of trust, it can bring the entire operation to a halt. The jockeys at Aqueduct used their collective power to shine a spotlight on an issue they felt was critical to the sport's integrity. It was a risky and disruptive move, but one they clearly felt was necessary. As we move forward, it will be interesting to see if there are any long-term changes to the procedures at NYRA tracks as a result of this protest. Will there be new protocols for the clerk of scales? Will there be more oversight or different training for racing officials? These are the questions that the racing community will be asking. This event could be a catalyst for change, not just in New York, but potentially at other tracks around the country, as other jockey colonies might take note of what happened here. It's a powerful example of what can happen when athletes stand together for what they believe in. So, that's the story of the weekend shutdown at Aqueduct. A dramatic and unusual event that shook up the New York racing scene. What are your thoughts on this? Do you side with the jockeys, or do you think there was a different way to handle this? Let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective on this. It's a fascinating situation with a lot of different angles to consider.